Okay, welcome to another episode of the New Labor Movement Show. I am one of your hosts, Troy.
I'm Ray.
We are ready for another week of local law, labor, and politics. Time to really get it back local. This is 2021 we are in, and we are in a hot season for politics. We have a bunch of city council races coming up this year and a bunch of people running for the mayor of New York City.
That's it. This is where local unions can flex their muscle.
Oh my goodness.
Because if we get a mayor who demands what we demand, you can get real change in the boroughs. Most of the unions do their work.
All we got to do is get on the similarly same page and all do the same thing at the same time. Forget about all the other nonsense. We need to set the minimum bar being I support labor. Everything else is after that, but anybody who doesn't cross the I support labor bar, drop their name off the list.
Because think about it. They just passed the budget for New York State, and supposedly they want to do like $51 billion worth of work over the next year in the 5 boroughs. You know, extending the subway, the ferries. They want to do a whole lot of infrastructure stuff, and that's all.
Who's
the vast majority that has to go union.
Yep.
And we have to make sure that the guy who's going to do that is the mayor is going to say, "Listen, I want this to be New York. I support unions, and I want to make sure that everyone gets their fair share."
Let's go through the list. So first, we have a name that would be commonly known, Scott Stringer.
Listen, Scott Stringer is if you're a New Yorker of a certain age, Scott Stringer's been like a borough president. He's had a couple of positions. I think he's actually run for mayor at least once, but probably twice before.
I'm not sure about that, but I know right now he's currently the city controller.
That is correct. He is currently the city controller. He seems to be running as I'm not de Blasio candidate. He has a plethora of issues. Well, he's definitely running as the not de Blasio candidate. I know he does. He's advocated for affordable housing. He's for gun control. He's done women's reproductive rights. He's LGBTQ rights. And he wants to do campaign finance a lot, but he's been in government a while, so I guess he has a lot of time to think about these things. And as a side note, when we were on strike, he did come to the strike line, and he did support us. As a side note.
Yes. Also, as a side note, though, one of the things with Scott Stringer, he's running as more or less kind of an established progressive, where he does have the political background, but also is trying to pull in progressive votes from the city.
Right.
Showing his chops is there. But some of the issues that he'll have with that is in the past, he has supported some large real estate projects like, say, Hudson Yards. And also one of the things that will have to be like a point of contention with even us as well is, even as controller, he holds one of the funds that right now, the city funds that are heavily invested into companies like Spectrum Cable, which we are not a fan of. So
absolutely not. No, so listen, he's probably a middle of the road Democrat who, I guess because of the time things are, he's trying to move further left.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be my assessment. You guys can all look up it. Listen, the guy's got a long history. You Google him, and a lot of his stuff will come up in Google. You'll know exactly who he is or who he's not. Just Google him. And then what do you want to do next?
Okay. Next we go over into Eric Adams.
Eric Adams. I first came across Eric Adams as he was the leader of, I believe, 100 Black Cops, right? That was when he first kind of came into prominence.
100 Blacks in law enforcement. Who care?
My apologies. I knew he was that. And then I remember him as, I think he did something in the state legislature, and I think he's currently the Brooklyn borough president, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, he's your borough president, right, Troy? He's your boy, huh?
Yeah. So Brooklyn Borough President,
He's the
former history in police enforcement, couple of
one.
decades in police enforcement. Now, some of his information on his platform, I'm trying to understand because I know that
I know he's big into immigrant rights. I know that's one of his things. And I believe he is, even though he's a former cop, he's not as pro police as you may think. I think he's more along the lines of police reform.
and that
and
is,
you know, I
and
think
to me,
that's
that is pro police because it pro police. I mean, he supports the police, and I think because someone supports the police, that don't mean they have to support them blindly.
oh no. Like I think he would be. What I mean is, you're gonna have. We're gonna come across a guy later who's gonna come on the side of the cops probably 90 out of 100 times. This guy probably down the middle, I would think.
No, I would say he would be 90. The guy you're talking about is going to be 99.99999.
I say him with a German accent. What's that about? What are you doing?
And what I
Right,
also
who's
want
the
to
next
get some
person you
more.
want to get into? Yeah, no,
Well,
you got something on Mr. Brooklyn Borough President?
say it again.
You have more stuff you want to dish about Mr. Eric Adams?
The only other thing I wanted to try to find out more about his platform is I know he's very pro development, and I want to get some more information about exactly what that means and what that's planned for. Because
Well,
we
I
always want to
think
make sure it focuses on union labor.
well, because yes, see, and anytime someone's pro development, I have to kind of pay extra attention because I usually when people are pro development, it means they're pro job, but I want to know pro what kind of job.
Right, exactly. Right.
I mean, you would hope that as a former police officer, he'd be a pro union guy, and we want that work to go to union members. But he is also very pro. He has pro immigration rights, so those two necessarily don't jive. But I don't want to judge. I want to say.
Okay, I let it go because we gotta keep going. All right. So next up we have Maya Wiley.
Maya Wiley. I know she was in the first De Blasio administration. She is. She's also been a contributor on MSNBC. She's very, very anti-Trump for you people who want that as a good thing. She's very, very, very anti-Mr. Trump. I think her latest was she was what the president of social justice at the for urban policy at the New School.
Urban policy and
right?
New School, yeah, correct.
I know she's a former top counsel for Mayor de Blasio and is a one-time civil rights attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union, the NAACP, Legal Defense, and Educational Fund.
So
she's also a former chair of the Civilian Complaint Board. So if you want to give cops a hard time, she will help you.
Oh, brother, here we go.
No, listen. I would think she would be very, very pro-liberal, pro the community, and would definitely be holding the cops very, very, very accountable. And I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that's where she'd be.
What I see from Maya Wiley, it seems like a lot of her platform is mostly will be social justice programs. For what I can see, she does have a background in it seems like in law. What I would like to see is also the rest of her platform. Something I also like to look at as far as candidates is what they have as far as because she's already a contributor on I think it's MSNBC and CNN, I can get to see some insight of to how she looks at different problems or different issues that come her way and what her decision-making process on that. So this is what I like to look at in candidates. I don't need to necessarily know about everything you have done, but I need to see how you react to things that are put in front of you, and I can judge your character on that. So I know if a decision comes in front of you, this is how you're most likely going to make it.
What? Well, you know what? You see that most of these people from, like, they, you know, it depends upon, like you said, what their thought process is. Like, certain guys are going to come from, no matter what you throw in front of them, they're going to think of it from a law enforcement thing, or I'm going to think about it as a developer. You know, it depends. Like you said, what's their bread and butter? My opinion of her is she's always going to look through the lens of social justice.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that's where she is.
We'll see. Yeah.
She's definitely gonna be heavy social justice solutions.
All right.
Who else you want to go for now? Go. Who you want to do?
All right. So next up we have Sean Donovan.
I'll be honest with you. I had to look for him. I had never heard of him before. To keep it 100%.
Yes.
Um,
This one I'm gonna read
he's
straight from the bio.
right. And he his latest job, senior strategist, the president of Harvard University.
Right.
He used to be the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development and Director of the Office of Management and Budget under President Obama. So there's that.
I like
And was
that.
the administration point man for Hurricane Sandy recovery efforts in New York. He was a commissioner of the Department of Housing Preservation and Development under Mayor Michael Bloomberg's administration too. So, fairly
So-
middle of the road guy.
Right.
What the resume says to me, he has government experience, agency experience, probably somewhat executive experience. So if you're looking for a guy who's going to be familiar with the way government works, he's probably a good guy.
Now with everything that happens
I know
with
yeah.
with everything that happens with NYCHA in the city, I like someone coming in that has some experience in housing and urban development. And
I
also
would
it
imagine
seems like he's gonna lean towards climate issues from what it sees, like some of his past.
Yes, 100%. No. I was just gonna say his glass is gonna his purview is gonna be climate change, sustainability, and things of that nature. And you're right. I mean, if you're someone who is, NYCHA. I mean, NYCHA under this past mayor has been horrible.
NYCHA
God, he's been awful at it.
So horrible.
I know, but it's gotten, for a guy who was supposed to be an organizer and ultra liberal, you would think that NYCHA would have been out of his wheelhouse. He's made something bad worse.
Yeah. All right.
So who we want to go to next?
All right. What about Catherine Garcia?
See, Catherine Garcia, right now, I believe she is part of DSNY.
I remember her associated with sanitation. Yeah.
I mean, she has done other things in the administration. I believe she's been with him since the beginning, and she's been the director or the assistant director of a couple of different spots. She's another one who is, if you're looking for a person who is in government, she has executive experience. She knows how government works. She's run agencies. So, she's going to be able to probably hit the ground running a little better than others. I don't know if, where she's going to go as far as, when I looked her up, I didn't know too much about her political strategy was. So,
it looks like she was called on several times to handle stuff that had to do with different crises in the city. And then she was called upon to handle those interimly. But then some of the departments she have on, it sounds good on her resume to be in the background, but some of them are kind of troubling because some of those had issues like New York City housing. She was named interim chair there. What she did during that time, then that would be a question of did she make it better or worse? I see things of her where she was tasked with leading the city's efforts to abate lead, which would be good, but then it's what happened during that time because there's still a big problem with lead. So you got to kind of figure out exactly what role she played in those positions while she was there.
Well, listen, she definitely has governmental experience, and so I guess you can, if you're looking for someone with governmental experience, she definitely is a candidate for that. Who's next, Mr. Troy?
We got Ray McGuire.
Ray McGuire. I had to look him up too.
Mm-hmm.
He is the vice chair of Citigroup. So This is going to be a guy who is definitely used to running organizations, and he's going to be very business friendly. And if you're a New Yorker who is thinking that you're going to need some way to rebuild the tax base, I guess he could be one of your guys. I don't know where he stands politically. It would seem to me that from what I looked up about him, that he would be much more of a moderate Democrat, your classic, you know, middle of the road kind of guy. He's going to be, you know, along the lines of like Koch and other, you know, older Democrats. He's definitely not going to be, you know, big on social justice. Not that he's anti-social justice, but he's going to be much more classic Democrat, Dinkins, along that way.
Well, I don't know about that. To me, I see him as I see Wall Street and business experience, and I see a
Yes.
non-politician, and those two things I like. It reminds me of anything more the lines of bringing the city's economy back up, more of like a Michael Bloomberg kind of character. And one of
I
the
could listen. I think
one of the pets
Bloomberg.
in his
I would think Bloomberg.
platform is economic equality. So anyone that's going to focus on that, to me, would be a good addition. I definitely want to hear what he has to say.
I think the knock on him is going to be, he's not going to. I can't imagine a big business guy is going to be too pro-union. I could be wrong.
You say that. Don't say unions are good for business, man.
Good for business, not businessmen. There's a difference. So who are we going to do next?
All right, next up we got Lori Sutton.
Another person, I had no idea who she was. I had to look her up.
Right.
I mean, right now she is what? New York City Veterans Service Commissioner under de Blasio. I guess that was her last job.
Yeah.
Says she's the retired brigadier general, served as the Army's highest ranking psychiatrist. Oh, that's okay. She did a tour in Egypt and also served in Iraq during the first Gulf War. I mean,
most of her platform looks like to be around and involving veterans, whether it's mental health, whether it's homelessness. It seems like it's a focus. Now, that's not stuff that's specifically related to veterans that can help throughout the entire city, but that definitely does seem to be her focus.
She opposes defunding the police, which actually technically is in
such a stupid phrase anyway.
I'm right. I mean, again, I guess I would have to hear more about her as the campaign went on. Who do we have next?
Zach Iscol.
I had not heard of him either.
Correct. Founder and CEO of digital media company Grid
He's
North.
a Marine turned entrepreneur. So can't be all bad. He looks like he's one of the younger guys joining. He's like, everyone else is like 50s and 60s. Right. So he's pretty young. So he's got that going for me, if you like that. I mean, because sometimes younger eyes can put a fresh perspective. And he's an entrepreneur, so you have to like that. He was a Marine. You have to like that. He is CEO of a media company. I guess, he'll be politically savvy. So, pet issues, supporting military vets in the chief cause. He's probably the most moderate of all the candidates. And like Sutton, he wants to attract middle of the road Democrats. That's the that to be the what's the word? The story about him. I don't know if this mayoral race is going to really want a middle of the road Democrat. I mean, I think it would be best for the city. I think if you go too far left or too far right, you start alienating a lot of people.
I don't think there is a too far left, too far right. That's to me, there's arbitrary labels. Is all. I mean, what issues do you support and which issues don't you support? That will help.
I agree.
All right. Next up, we got Carlos Menchaca. I can't remember Menchaca or
Menchaca.
Yeah.
He is the current councilman for Brooklyn's 38th district.
Right.
He has been, he was the LGBT and HIV community liaison to the former city council speaker, Christine Quinn, who also is a possible runner, but we haven't heard anything about her.
Correct.
Menchaca is heavy on, immigrant rights for sure. He is, I don't know if he was a Marine. I don't know if he was a Marine. He is a Marine. He is heavy on immigrant rights for sure. 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 He is he wants all residents, regardless of status, treated the same. I think that's a worthwhile endeavor. He's probably one of the more progressive people in the race.
And I need to see what that means, because
And
just because you say you're progressive, I need to know kind of, just having a progressive label alone, I understand what it should mean and what you're for, but now
I think
I need
I
to
would think
pull
you.
out of you, what does that actually mean as far as your policies that you plan
I'm
on
saying
to
though,
put forward?
you can tell that he's progressive, but exactly, there's several progressive issues. Which progressive issues is he heavy on, and which progressive issues is he light on?
Now, the only thing that
I'm
I would
sure he's
have
gonna,
with,
he's
the only issue I would have with Carlos
with you.
as of right now is, I know we've invited, I believe, him to several rallies, and we haven't seen him show up at any. So that would be my first little
No.
knock.
Like I said, some of the people and I know we bumped into a couple of city people, and his part, by the way, his part of Brooklyn is covered by Spectrum.
Spectrum, yes, it is. But I know I have seen him at one of the Take It Back rallies, so then he did support there. So
Yeah. By the way, TAC is a very pro-union, but it is also very pro that once you're here, we want they want you to be treated fairly. So that would be a natural fit for him.
okay. I see that. All right. Next up, we have Diane Morales.
Another person I was unfamiliar with.
Correct. Well, I was unfamiliar with her until she was one of the people who, before going on New York One, knew about what was happening with our strike in the city, and definitely agreed to try to show any support she could and made sure that she wore our buttons. Yeah.
It was her, and who else was really good like that? And they would definitely both be considered progressives and like legit progressives. Who's the one? Who was the what was the politician? It was a woman, and she was running against. She was running for governor. Like when we first went on strike, she had the unique first name.
Zephyr Teachout?
Yes.
Awesome.
She reminds me of like her.
Honestly, I don't know much about Diane Morales, and not just because she wore the button. I mean, listening to her speak during that interview and looking at her platform, there were a lot of things in her platform that I see that she does that I do want to hear more about. That it does seem interesting.
Yes.
So she was a founding member for the Jumpstart 25-year-old national 25-year-old national nonprofit that prepares preschoolers for kindergarten. So that's a knock.
She's also part of this neighborhood. She's like an organizer. I mean, definitely. Like it says here, she's ardently progressive with ideas like community control of New York City Housing Authority, defunding the police, and enacting a minimum income for all city residents.
Right.
That's pretty. I'm not gonna lie, pretty progressive.
Yeah, I like some of the stuff that's in her platform, and I see that she's from Bed-Stuy, so she gets another knock there. And then you added the part that she did reach out and try to show support where she can. And
also, I don't know if this will touch your heart because I'm not sure where you live. She is Bed-Stuy strong. She was born and raised and still currently resides in Bed-Stuy.
So I'm definitely gonna be looking forward to seeing more about her.
Are you familiar with the neighborhood of Bed-Stuy? Are you?
Me, a little bit. All right. Next up, we have a familiar name, Curtis Sliwa.
Everyone will know this guy's name, and 50% of you are gonna love him, and 50% of you are gonna hate him.
All right.
And this is
I love the intro that says current job, self-appointed crime fighter.
By the way, exactly. This is you know him as the he is the founder of the watchdog group called the
Guardian Angels.
You know, they used to wear their red jackets and their berets, the Guardian Angels.
Yep.
He's been on talk radio. He had a vendetta with every politician you can imagine. I believe if you listen to him, he's actually been shot at.
In some crime family.
So listen, he's a real New Yorker. He may not know how government works from the inside, but he has been in New York politics forever and a day.
I can
There's
tell you
nothing to
everything.
know when he doesn't know or know about. So,
Everything about
and
his
he's
bio says
Mhm.
crime fighter, crime fighter, crime fighter. So
no. Listen, he is definitely going to be what you would consider the law and order candidate of this.
Mhm.
He,
All right.
you know, he knows how New York City works inside and an outside political observer. He's been a lifelong New Yorker, but he is a wild card because he's never been a politician. It's not like he's coming from a big corporation with executive experience, but he has worked community grassroots situations. So, you're going to get, I was going to say a mixed bag of donuts, but I think with him, all his policies would probably be on clean city and whatever that entails.
Mm. All right. And then we're going to come up with
If you don't know, it's Mr. Andrew Yang with the Yang.
Yang Gang,
He is an entrepreneur. He is also
a
the only
businessman.
person on either side of the aisle who's ever talked about automation. Like, what are we going to do when robots replace humans and can do all our jobs? And he was one of the first people to bring up universal guaranteed income.
Mhm.
He brought it up for nationwide, and from what I could tell when he was doing his thing today, he would guarantee a basic universal income for all New Yorkers.
Now, with Andrew Yang, I agree with some of his evaluations of what the problems are. I'm not too sure if I agree with some of his solutions of how to get it done, but also what he
Right.
has for me is also a businessman and also not a politician, and also new inventive ideas that could be able to help change things and also bring the city back.
100%.
So I definitely want to hear more from him as well. I
The
would
guy's
definitely like to hear
45.
from him also
He's
about
an
unions and
entrepreneur.
strike, since he hasn't replied to anything about it yet. But we'll go to
Listen,
that.
he
Right.
it definitely looks like he's definitely would be open to a new solution.
So I mean, is that with various other names that are running for candidates? We have Christine Quinn that might be running, John Cassidy.
Maybe.
We have Paperboy Prince, who's a constant runner. We got Isaac Wright.
Right. He's
I mean,
another one.
there's
Is he
a
like that guy? The rent's too damn high.
no, wrong person, wrong person. So I mean,
I know it's not him, but it's like him.
there's a large field and there's
isn't
plenty of
it-
other candidates. So I'm sure in the upcoming months we will be hearing some more names as they try to make
Wasn't there
their
rumor
name
of-
known for the carve out that they have in this field. All right.
Mm.
So once again, this is Troy,
I'm still Ray.
and this has been another episode of the New Labor Movement Show. We are signing out.